Title: After raising my stepdaughter alone, she cut me from her wedding because her real dad showed up. My name is Stephen Clark. I'm a quiet man. I've worked in maintenance most of my life. I love simple things: fishing, fixing things with my hands, and coming home to people who need me. I married my wife Diane when her daughter Emily was 3. Her father, gone, disappeared without even a note. From the moment I held Emily's tiny hand, I made a vow. Not out loud, but in my heart. I will be your dad, no matter what. And I changed her diapers. I taught her how to ride a bike. I was there at every school recital, every fever, every nightmare. Diane and I had our ups and downs. Marriage is like that, but Emily, she was my constant, my purpose. Even when Diane and I split when Emily was 16, I stayed close. Not because the law said so, because love did. I still picked her up from school, still sent money for books, still showed up at her birthday dinners even if it meant sitting across from my ex. And she never once made me feel like anything less than her father. Until 3 weeks ago, she got married, and I wasn't invited. Not a seat, not a mention, not even a photo on the board. Because the man who vanished 25 years ago suddenly showed up, and that was enough to erase me. Or at least she thought it was. Before I tell you the full story, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever poured your entire heart into raising someone, only to be pushed aside when it mattered the most? 'Cause that's exactly what happened to me. I wasn't just a stepfather, I was her father. But when the wedding came, I didn't get an invitation, her real dad did. If you've ever felt forgotten, replaced, or left behind, like this video. And share your story in the comments. We read every single one. Enjoy listening. Chapter 1. The day I became her father without permission. It wasn't the happiest day of my life. It wasn't even my decision. Diane, my ex-wife, showed up at my door with a little girl clinging to her leg like a barnacle. Hair in ribbons, snot on her nose, wide brown eyes too tired for a 3-year-old. "This is Emily," she said. "She's mine, from before. I never told you because I thought he'd take her, but he's gone. He's not coming back." Just like that, I became a father. No ceremony. No training manual. No moment to ask myself if I was ready. Just 2 human beings looking at me. One pleading, one too small to understand what this all meant. I wasn't good with kids. Didn't have any of my own. Never planned to. I was a maintenance guy, wrenches, busted pipes, HVAC systems. I could fix broken things, not raise fragile ones. But something in me, maybe the part that always hated walking away from a challenge, said stay, try. So I tried. First night, she cried until she threw up. Diane didn't even wake up. I held that little girl's shaking body over the toilet, wiped her mouth with one hand, held her hair with the other, murmuring things I didn't even believe yet. "It's okay, I've got you, you're safe now." She didn't trust me at first, wouldn't look me in the eye when I talked, wouldn't take food unless Diane handed it to her. Slept curled up like a question mark, as if the world owed her an answer, and she was too afraid to ask. But kids are weird little truth detectors. They don't respond to words, they respond to consistency. So I got consistent. I was there for breakfast, there for bedtime stories, even when I butchered the voices. There when she threw tantrums. There when she skinned her knee chasing a squirrel. There when Diane started pulling away. She started calling me Steve at first, short, distant, safe. But one night, when the thunder scared her and she ran into our room and curled up between us, still shaking, still sniffling, she whispered something. "Daddy?" I didn't even breathe. I thought if I moved, I'd break the spell. That was the moment. That was the day I became her father. Not by law, not by blood, but by bond. Quiet, unspoken, forged in little ordinary moments no one else would ever see. Diane and I didn't last. I held us together for longer than I should have. She drifted, got tired of the routine, wanted adventure again. The kind you can't have with a 9-to-5 husband and a clingy daughter. When she left, she didn't take Emily. She just said, "You're better at this than I ever was. She loves you more anyway." It should have crushed me, but instead I took it like a twisted compliment. And Emily? She didn't cry for her mom, not once. I don't think she was surprised. It was just the 2 of us after that. And when I say 2 of us, I mean we were inseparable. I went to every parent-teacher conference, learned how to braid her hair from YouTube, sat through every single middle school talent show, even when she forgot the lyrics halfway through and ran off stage. I cheered the loudest. I was the dad with the embarrassing signs and the goofy smiles. I didn't care. Every Father's Day, she'd make me a card, hand-drawn, glittery, usually with lopsided hearts and some pun like, "You nailed it, Dad," with a little cartoon hammer. She called me Dad now, no hesitation, no disclaimer, just Dad. We had this dumb tradition. Every Sunday morning I'd make her pancakes, same recipe every time, slightly burnt edges, too much syrup, and orange juice, no pulp, always no pulp. We'd sit on the couch, plates in our laps, cartoons playing in the background even though she was way too old for cartoons, and we'd talk, not about anything big, just stuff. School, crushes, why algebra was the worst. That's when I knew her the most. She'd laugh with her mouth full, then pretend to be grossed out by my jokes. And I'd think, this is it. This is happiness, this moment right here. Not a vacation, not a promotion. Just her smile and pancakes and orange juice with no pulp. I never thought I'd lose that. Not to someone else. When she hit high school, things shifted. Not badly, just more distance. She was growing up and I gave her space. But I was always there. At every track meet, every award ceremony, every late-night freak-out about college applications. She got into her dream school. I nearly cried when she told me. She hugged me so tight I thought my ribs cracked. I paid for her books, helped her move into her dorm, fixed the wobbly bed frame with the same toolkit I'd used to build her first crib. And before I drove away that day, she said something that stuck. "Thank you, Dad, for never leaving." First year of college, she called every weekend. Second year, it was every other week. Third year, maybe once a month. I didn't take it personally. Kids grow, life gets busy. They don't stop loving you, they just forget to show it the way they used to. But part of me felt it. That cold little ache in your gut when someone you raised doesn't need you anymore. Still, I kept our Sunday tradition alive. I'd make pancakes, one plate, one glass of orange juice, just in case she ever came home. Sometimes she did, sometimes she didn't. I never stopped waiting. I found out she was engaged through Instagram. A photo, her and a tall guy in a vineyard holding hands, both smiling like idiots. The caption read, "He asked, I said yes, forever starts now." No text, no call, no email, just a photo. And for a second I thought it was a prank. But no, it was real. The little girl I raised was getting married, and I wasn't part of it. Yet, Chapter 2, The Father Who Showed Up After the Work Was Done. The first time I saw her real dad, the man who vanished, was on a screen. I didn't even know what I was looking at first. Just a blurry, over-filtered Instagram story shared from her fiancé's account. Emily at brunch, clinking glasses, laughter, and then a pan over to the man sitting beside her. He had Emily's chin, her eyes. A gray beard, too clean, too sculpted, like he was trying to look rugged. And there it was in the caption, "Brunch with my dad making up for lost time." I stared at it until my screen dimmed. No warning, no explanation, just a post like it was nothing. Like the years didn't matter. I spent 19 years changing her diapers, teaching her how to ride a bike, staying up through fevers, paying for college. And he shows up after 2 decades and gets a latte and forgiveness. I wasn't angry. I was shaken. Like my foundation had shifted. I always knew he existed. Diane had told me bits and pieces, that he skipped town when Emily was just a baby, that he didn't want the responsibility, that he wasn't ready to be a father. Well, I wasn't ready either, but I showed up. He didn't send a dime. Not for school supplies, not for birthdays, not for hospital visits, not for anything. And yet somehow he waltzes back into her life, and now he's the one she's calling Dad. On social media, I didn't want to confront her over text. I waited for her to call. Days passed, then a week. Nothing. Finally, I broke. I called her one night. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I left a message. "Hey, Em, just wanted to talk about a lot of things. Whenever you're free, I'm here." She texted the next morning. "Hey, sorry. Things have been crazy with wedding planning. I'll call soon, promise." She didn't. Not that day, not that week, not that month. Was she replacing me? Was he charming her with stories she didn't remember? Fabricated tales of why he couldn't stay? Twisted to make him the victim? Was she rewriting her childhood in her head? Did she forget who raised her? Who was there when she had night terrors and ran screaming down the hall? Who patched up her scraped knees and stayed up sewing her Halloween costume when she changed her mind at the last minute? Who gave up weekends, promotions, relationships, just to be the anchor she could count on? The wedding invitation came in the mail 2 weeks later. My name was spelled wrong on the envelope. Stephen with a V, not a PH. Inside was a glossy card, lavender trim, fancy gold lettering, a photo of them nose to nose backlit by the sun, and at the bottom, in smaller font, reception only, limited ceremony space. Reception only. I wasn't walking her down the aisle. I wasn't giving a speech. I wasn't in the father-daughter dance. I wasn't even invited to the ceremony. I didn't yell. I didn't call. I just sat on the couch staring at the card, my pancakes cold in front of me, orange juice sweating in the glass. The Sunday tradition that never stopped now felt mocked. I felt like I was mourning someone still alive. A daughter who existed in memories but not in reality. Not in this new version of her life. A life that didn't have room for me. I didn't know why I went. Maybe I wanted to see her one last time before the wedding. Maybe I thought if she saw me, really saw me, she'd remember. So I drove to the boutique where she was getting her final fitting. I'd overheard it from a cousin who assumed I was involved. I didn't go inside. I stood across the street in my truck. Watched through the glass as she twirled in her gown. Elegant, poised. Laughing with 2 bridesmaids and, yes, him. Her real dad was there, holding her veil. Like he had a right to. Like he hadn't missed 2 decades of her life. A woman, one of the shop staff, noticed me. Came out to check if I was okay. Thought I was a private driver. I told her the truth. That's my daughter in there. I raised her since she was 3. She invited me to the reception. The woman blinked, put a hand on my arm. I'm sorry, she said. That's wrong. You look like you've been through it. I just nodded. Sometimes the kindness of strangers hurts more than the betrayal of family. 2 days before the wedding, I ran into her in the store. Random, no plan. She was in the frozen aisle, grabbing appetizers. She turned, saw me, and froze. Dad, she said, a little breathless. Hey, Em. An awkward silence. We stood beside a row of frozen mini quiches. I got the invite, I said. Oh, right, I meant to call. Things just got so hectic. You're having your biological father walk you down the aisle. She flinched. It's complicated. No, it's not, I said, calm, flat. He left, I stayed. You don't reward the one who leaves and punish the one who stayed. Her voice dropped. I'm not punishing you. It feels like it. She looked around as if afraid of who might be listening. Then, look, I want him to be part of my life now. I want to give him a chance. That doesn't mean you're not my dad. No, I said, because it sure feels like it. Chapter 3, The Wedding Day That Wasn't Mine. I didn't sleep the night before. I laid there in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the slow tick of the clock and the distant sound of wind through the trees outside my window. I thought maybe time would slow down. Maybe if I stayed still long enough, the sun wouldn't rise and the day would never come. But it did. Wedding day. Not mine, not ours, hers. And I wasn't invited. Not really. I told myself I wouldn't go. Told myself I'd stay home, mow the lawn, fix the leaky faucet, do anything but torture myself. But when I sat on the edge of the bed that morning, shirt unbuttoned, shoes beside me, I realized I had already made the decision. The same way I showed up for every dance recital, every spelling bee, every scraped knee. I showed up. Even now, even when it wasn't my place anymore. It was a small wedding venue in upstate New York. I parked a few streets over. Didn't want to be seen, didn't want to cause a scene. The air was thick with pine and fresh-cut grass. I walked toward the stone gates, saw white petals scattered on the gravel, delicate like snowflakes. Music floated out from inside. Soft string instruments, muffled laughter, the clink of champagne glasses. I could hear her voice. Emily. She was laughing. Laughing. And I wasn't part of it. I stayed hidden. Behind a tree at first, then behind a cluster of hedges near the outer terrace. The ceremony had ended already. They were taking photos. She stood there in a long white gown, glowing in the afternoon light. Bouquet in one hand, his arm in the other. Not her husband. Her father? He was smiling like he earned it, like all of this had been his doing, like he hadn't missed the first 20 years of her life. She rested her head on his shoulder. They laughed at something the photographer said, and that's when I turned to leave. I couldn't watch anymore. I don't know why I looked back. Maybe instinct, maybe fate. But when I did, the photographer had his camera pointed right at me. Not Emily, not the groom. Me. Click. He lowered the camera and frowned, confused, maybe thinking I was paparazzi or a lost vendor. Emily turned to see what he was looking at. Our eyes met. It felt like being punched in the chest. Her face shifted, softened, confused, then regretful. She stepped forward like she might come to me. I turned away. I walked. I didn't run, I didn't cry, I just walked. Slow, heavy, hollow. That night around 9 p.m. my phone rang. Her name on the screen. I didn't want to answer. I did anyway. Hi, Dad. It was the first time she called me that in weeks. I saw you today, she said. I didn't expect... I know, I said. You shouldn't have come. I let that hang in the air. Then I said, I didn't come to crash it. I didn't even come to say anything. I just needed to see you. One last time, maybe. She was quiet. Then, I didn't know how to make everyone happy. I thought if I included both of you in different ways. You didn't include me, I said. You reduced me. More silence. Then she whispered, I'm sorry, but it didn't feel like enough. I always believed that love, real love, would protect you from abandonment. That if you gave someone everything, they would never leave you behind. But that's not how life works. People leave. Sometimes the people you sacrifice the most for walk away the easiest. Not because they're cruel, but because they never carried the weight of your love the way you did. They didn't feel the cost. Only you did. And they don't even know they're stepping over something sacred. I never asked him to come back, she said on the phone. He reached out, said he was dying, said he wanted to walk me down the aisle before he couldn't. I said nothing. She went on. I thought maybe if I let him in, I could fill that hole, that missing part. And did you? I asked. No, she said almost instantly. He left right after the toasts, said he wasn't feeling well. He hasn't texted me since. Of course he hadn't. I knew it. Some part of me even hoped it would happen, just so she could see. But it didn't feel like justice. Just felt empty. A week later, a package arrived at my door. No note, just a small brown box. Inside was a framed photo of the two of us. Me in a flannel shirt. Her at 9 years old, piggybacking on my back, both of us laughing. A milkshake spilled on my sleeve. I remembered the moment instantly. She had written one sentence on the back of the frame. This is the dad who raised me. I remember everything. I sat there staring at it, my hands shaking. Not crying. Not quite. But close. We still talk. Not like before. Holidays, sometimes birthdays, short polite calls, a few texts here and there. But the magic's gone. The thread that connected us. Those invisible moments only a parent knows, cut. Maybe not forever, but for now. And the strange thing is, I'm not angry anymore. Just tired. Some hearts break all at once. Mine, it cracked slowly, over years. And then one day, without warning, it stopped holding the shape it used to. If you were me, would you forgive her? Or would you walk away for good? Chapter 4. Letters never sent, words never said. After the wedding, life didn't return to normal. Because normal had died quietly somewhere along the way. The house was still the same. My coffee mug still sat in the cabinet, same chipped edge from when Emily knocked it off the counter years ago. The recliner still creaked in the same place when I leaned back. But everything felt different. 'Cause she wasn't there, and not just physically. Her presence, the buzzing energy of someone who once needed me, was gone. No more late-night calls about job interviews. No random texts of a dog she saw that reminded her of ours. No photos. No, look what I made for dinner, or guess who I ran into. Just nothing. About 2 weeks later, I sat at the kitchen table and wrote her a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real letter. Pen, paper, coffee rings on the edge. It started simply, Emily, I'm not writing this to blame you. I'm writing this to remember us. I poured everything into it. The time I stayed up all night sewing her costume for the school play. The way she cried when we put down the dog and how she fell asleep on my shoulder. The way I taught her to drive, and she nearly took out the mailbox but laughed the whole way through. I was never your blood, I wrote, but I was always your father. I ended it with, you don't owe me anything, but I need you to know that I was there, every day, even when it hurt, even now. I sealed the envelope, stamped it, carried it to the mailbox, stood there with the red flag in my hand, and walked back inside. I never mailed it. You want to know what broke me? Not the wedding, not the call after, not the photo she sent. It was a spoon. One morning, I reached into the drawer and pulled out a little silver spoon with a pink flower painted on the handle. It was Emily's favorite as a kid. She insisted on using it for cereal. I remember teasing her that it was her magic spoon. She swore it made everything taste better. I held it in my hand and just stared at it. 15 years, dozens of meals, 1,000 breakfasts, all of it somehow inside this stupid little spoon. I broke down in the kitchen, like a dam giving way. The kind of crying that doesn't make noise at first, just shakes you, from the inside out. I've always thought therapy was for people who didn't have tools. But then I realized, even mechanics need help fixing their own engines sometimes. So I made an appointment, sat in a small office with soft lights and too many throw pillows. And I told a complete stranger about Emily, about how I raised her, about how she cut me out. The therapist didn't interrupt. She just listened. And after I finished, she said one sentence I'll never forget. Sometimes the people we save don't remember the fire. That wrecked me. Because it was true. Weeks passed. One Thursday evening, as I was putting away groceries, my phone buzzed. It was from Emily. Just one line. Can I come over this weekend? I stared at it. Felt like the wind got knocked out of me. I didn't answer right away. Waited almost 2 hours. Then replied, yes, of course. No punctuation. Didn't want it to seem too eager or too cold. But my hands were shaking. Saturday came. She arrived in her old car, the same one I helped her pick out. Still had the dent in the passenger door from when she misjudged a parking space. She stood on the porch like a guest, not like someone who used to run barefoot through the living room yelling, I'm a tornado. I opened the door. She looked unsure, older, sadder. Hi, she said. Hi. I stepped aside. She came in. We sat at the kitchen table. The same one where she did homework. The same one where we carved pumpkins and painted Easter eggs. Now we sat across from each other like strangers. She was the first to speak. I don't know how to say this without making it worse, she said. But I think I need to say it anyway. Say it, I told her. I thought including him would heal something in me, she whispered. It didn't. It just opened a wound I didn't know was still there. I nodded, didn't interrupt. She went on. And in trying to fix that part of me, I broke us. Her voice cracked. I should have let you walk me down the aisle. I should have, God, I don't know. I should have thought about what you gave up for me. I said nothing. Not because I was angry, but because if I opened my mouth, I might cry. She reached into her purse, pulled out my letter, the one I didn't send. How did you? I came by last week, she said. You weren't home. I let myself in with the old key. It was sitting on the kitchen counter. She looked at me. I read it, every word, twice. And then she started to cry. For real. Not polite crying, not I feel bad crying, but the crying of someone who finally realized what they lost. There was an old jigsaw puzzle in the attic. We used to do puzzles together on rainy days. She'd always start from the corners, and I'd work from the center. But there was one puzzle, of a lighthouse on a cliff, that we never finished. Always lost 1 or 2 pieces. That night, I brought it down. We sat on the living room floor, quiet, focused, not speaking, just placing pieces. We still didn't finish it, still missing 3 pieces, but somehow it felt whole. She asked me softly, do you forgive me? I looked at her, at the woman she became, at the little girl I once carried on my shoulders, at all the moments in between. And I said, no. Her face dropped. But I'm working on it, I added. She looked confused. I explained, forgiveness isn't a door I open. It's a road I walk, and I'm still on it. She nodded. That was enough. More than she expected. So where are we now? Somewhere between broken and rebuilt. She comes by now and then. Sometimes we watch a movie. Sometimes we just sit in silence. We don't talk about the wedding. We don't talk about him. We just talk. She asked once if I'd like to write something down, for her, about our time together, like a memoir. So I started writing this. Maybe one day she'll read it. Maybe you just did, and maybe that's enough. Because sometimes the story isn't about how it ends. It's about who stayed when it hurt, and why. If you made it this far, thank you. You just walked with me through the kind of pain most people never talk about. The quiet kind, the invisible kind. So I'll ask again. If you were in my shoes, after raising a child who later cut you out, would you fight for a place in their life, or walk away forever? Subscribe if stories like this help you feel seen, understood, or less alone. Share this with someone who needs to know that love isn't always neat, but it's always real.